Welcome to the Franconia Community Church of Christ. I'm Cindy Berlack, and I'm proud to be your lay leader for today's service. We as a church community continue to carry the flame of companionship and love through this very challenging time. Thank you for joining us. As far as announcements, every Wednesday we have a dinner to go here at the church that's for free. Come around 5 to 5:30, and we'd love to see you and help you to stay healthy through this time. Also, our Sunday services are broadcast on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, Franconia Community Church, and also on Facebook. In my service today, I've changed the pronouns used in the Bible to further consciousness of equality. I've identified God as female, as it was in the ancient agrarian times when Mother Earth was worshipped as the central deity. In these trying times, may we each do what we can. Give ear, O heavens, and I will speak, and let the earth hear the words of my mouth. May my teaching drop as the rain, may my speech distill as the dew, like gentle rain upon the tender grass, and like showers upon the herb. For I will proclaim the name of the Lord, ascribe the greatness of this higher power with all her feminine insights and caring. She is our guiding light, our rock. Her work is perfect, for all her ways are justice. A power of faithfulness and without iniquity, just and upright is she. The first reading today is from Exodus 20, 8 through 11. And I chose this because I felt that it was important to recognize that we all work hard and to have a period of time in the week where we just sit back, reflect, and appreciate all our gifts. And this is about keeping the Sabbath. And I know that it doesn't always mean going to church. It means being in a reflective mode, appreciative mode, or being in nature, whatever works for you. Remember that the Sabbath day belongs to me. You have 6 days when you can work, but the seventh day in each week belongs to me, your Lord. No one is to work on that day, not you, your children, your slaves, your animals, or the foreigner who lives in your towns. In 6 days I made the sky, the earth, the oceans, and everything in them, but on the seventh day I rested. That's why I made the Sabbath, a special day that belongs to me. The second reading is also from the Exodus section of the Bible, and it is the 10 Commandments. And I chose it because I just thought it would be good to go back to what the Bible recognizes as living in an upright and caring way. And just to remind us of the 10 Commandments, here it is. I am the Lord thy God, and thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. This commands faith, hope, love, and prayer. The second commandment is thou shalt not take the name of the Lord in vain. This means reverence in speaking about God and holy things, and keeping oaths and vows. The third commandment is keep the Sabbath holy, and we've talked about that. The fourth is honor thy mother and thy father. This means love, respect, and obedience on the part of children, care on the part of parents in the spiritual and physical well-being for their children and all children. Thou shalt not kill. This means safeguarding one's own life and body as well as that of others. Thou shalt not commit adultery. This means remaining true to loved ones in all supporting ways. Thou shalt not steal. This is respect for property and the rights of others, paying of just debts, and being trustworthy. Number 8, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. This means truthfulness and respect for others. Number 9 is thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife. This means purity in thought. And the 10th one is thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's goods. And this means respect for others and all they have and all they do.
Join us in singing Jesus, Jesus. This is the summary of the law. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and all your strength. This is the great and first commandment. And the second is like it. You shall love thy neighbor as yourself. On these 2 commandments depend all the law and the prophets. We come before you humbly to look upon our weaknesses. We ask that you bring us gently into your presence. We are flawed. Sometimes we speak too quickly and harshly. We are annoyed with our limitations. We are afraid for our families and ourselves. We grieve the state of our nation and the world. Be with us as the Mother Earth nurtures all loving things. Amen. Let us sing, We Are Not Our Own, 3 verses. It is not you who shape God. It is God that shapes you. If, then, you are the work of God, await the hand of the artist, who does all the things in due season. Offer the potter your heart, soft and tractable, and keep the form in which the artist has fashioned you. Let your clay be moist, lest you grow hard and lose the imprint of the potter's fingers.
Let's sing 3 verses of Go Down, Moses.
This is called Coming to a New Land. In many ways, our current lives have become an adventure, a process of coming to a new place. This process of developing a new environment, unfamiliar and difficult, has occurred in many different eras over time and around the globe. We're not the first ones here emerging somewhere new and unfamiliar, a new land. I've chosen 3 examples of this, one from the 13th century BC, when Moses led the Hebrews out of Egypt and slavery, as described in Exodus, the Old Testament. The second is when the colonists landed in New England in 1620. The events which followed sent both the pilgrims and the native people into huge turmoil. And I'm using the native people as the third example. Both of these societies endured a time of death, challenge, survival, and a steep learning curve, not unlike what we're experiencing today. Long before Christ, there was a Hebrew son born in Egypt. At that time, a rumor circulated that the eldest son of some family would rise up against King Ramses II. The king ordered all the eldest sons of Hebrew and Egyptian births to be murdered. Talk about coincidences or preordained good luck. A beautiful baby boy was found in a basket in the river by the king's daughter. She adopted him. He was the Hebrew Moses. He grew up as a fine Egyptian man, but had an innate sensitivity to the Hebrew slaves who were so badly treated by the Egyptians as they did the seemingly impossible work of building the pyramids. Moses killed an Egyptian guard who was beating a Hebrew slave, then ran for his life to the holy Mount Sinai. After 10 years in hiding, he heard God tell him to return and ask King Ramses to release the Hebrew slaves. The king refused until God brought multiple harsh disasters to the Egyptian people. Then God said to Moses, "Okay, take your people out." But as they left, he changed his mind. Only Moses, with his God-given powers, could save the fleeing Hebrews by parting the Red Sea, allowing the Hebrews to pass out of Egypt. Then he closed the seas, drowning many of the Egyptians who were pursuing the Hebrews. The time of slavery was hell for the Hebrews. It was a crisis. Their way out was to follow Moses, who listened to God and gained her blessing, thereby benefiting from the superpowers she gave him. They followed Moses, who truly believed in her higher power, and were set free. Perhaps we too can follow what we know as true and right and be set free. I have a long-standing interest in the native people of New England. There are so many place names that remain here in our area from the dominance of the time that the native people dominated here. For centuries, they were very happy in fertile New England, well, southern New England, until a sickness was introduced in 1610, when the explorers from Europe had introduced it. With no immunities, their populations were decimated. Sound familiar? Let's look at what the first colonists experienced. I recently read a 400-page first-hand account by Pilgrim Father William Bradford. He could have used some lessons in modern grammar, but I got through it. Once the Pilgrims arrived in 1620, they were definitely flying by the seat of their pants. How to grow food and stay alive in barren New England when arriving in December? One could say it was Providence that the one who showed them how to plant was Squanto, a young native from Plymouth, Mass. This young man had been kidnapped by an explorer, taken to Spain, sold into slavery, purchased by an Englishman who taught him English, then bought him passage back to the New World as an interpreter. Squanto escaped the boat that he came back from England on and landed in Maine, and then ran back to Plymouth, only to find his relatives all dead from the great sickness. He found the Pilgrims living on his tribe's land. That is too long a string of coincidences to believe, but maybe God made it happen. She is powerful. The Pilgrims truly believed that it was God-given that they would come to Plymouth and survive. From what Mr. Bradford says, it was no picnic leading a group of pilgrims who were not completely universally aligned religiously through the growing pains of creating a new society. It was a constant crisis for about 60 years. Miles Standish, the military leader, from the get-go created an illusion of colonist supremacy over the natives. That posture pretty much is what saved the colonists. Within their group, they had murders, thefts, rapes, all the animosities that we have in modern society, but on a smaller scale. Not having a news broadcast probably worked in their favor. Even in the 1670s, Beacon Hill in Boston was named because a fire was lit there to broadcast any Indian attack. By then, Boston had overshadowed Plymouth, drawing more professional colonists due to its deep water harbor. Competition arose between Plymouth and Boston, raising a great deal of animosity between the two. There were no doctors, stores, modes of transportation besides foot. Legal tender, wampum was used, which was made by the Narragansett natives, and served as the legal tender until 1643 when the first money was printed in the New World. All trade and subsistence was challenging. Neither they nor the natives knew what the future would hold. Each had an equal chance to be exterminated by the other. During this time, the native people were faced with a huge crisis. They had lived many centuries hunting, gathering, and farming. They created all needed food, clothing, and shelter directly from their environment. Now the colonists, called the coat people, since the natives only had skin cloaks for warmth in winter, presented a huge problem. The newcomers had guns, which the natives wanted to protect themselves against their long-standing, offending native neighbors. But at the same time, the natives knew the coat people had done them much harm. They'd kidnapped Squanto, and there were legendary random killings of the natives at the hands of the colonists. There was also word that there were many colonists who could come to their area from the Old World and squeeze them out. There were heated discussions among the Wampanoag leaders who watched from the hill overlooking Plymouth as the Pilgrims suffered through their first winter. The Pilgrims purposely buried their dead at night so the natives would not see that they were so weakened by cold and the lack of food. One half of the 102 passengers of the Mayflower were dead by the spring of 1621. Finally, the native leader Massasoit, led the decision to greet the Pilgrims. He was the one who could be thanked for our romanticized image of the first Thanksgiving. After that, in the following 50 years, the natives fought valiantly to keep their land and culture. They tried to keep the peace with the colonists, but the colonists kept on taking their land and disregarding their ways. At the hands of the colonists, the natives suffered more atrocities than we can even imagine. Trickery, mass murder, thieving, broken promises, all-out war to exterminate them. That war happened in 1675 and 6. It was the King Philip War and was waged by Massasoit's own son. How ironic. It was the last-ditch effort by the natives to keep their beautiful, fertile land in southern New England. That was a crisis for the native people, tenfold what we're experiencing today. And that conflict ended, it took over 60 years through the French and Indian Wars to finally obliterate the native peoples, their entire culture in New England, unfairly, without courtrooms or laws. Talk about coming to a new land. Now we can see we're not alone in history, in our present-day trauma, in our bewilderment. Looking back, it appears that, like the level of water, elements of nature and man play out as they have to, by scientific laws like gravity, germ transmission, the survival of the most fit group, and by universal laws of love and peace. We can fight to change the course of these elements through the lessons that we've learned in the past. They're valuable lessons. Did we really learn them? Can we function with more respect, honor, and morally good choices? We are the most highly developed creature on the planet Earth. It is our challenge to recognize where we are in reality and make changes for the better. In regard to sickness, to our damaged, delicate climate, in regard to how we treat each other, we are in turmoil. But there have been worse crises through time, and they have been settled by nature's laws. They will be settled again by those same laws. We can influence them as best we can, and we can do as much as each of us individually have within our power. But the laws of nature are strong. And the laws of love, peace, and consideration for our fellow man are also very, very strong. Each of us can do what we can to minimize today's trauma. Be kind to each other. Be conscious of our environment. Be careful not to spread our modern day great sickness. I know each of us are able to do this. It's whether we really pay attention to it and fulfill all our powers to make change within ourselves and within the world. Let it be so.
Let's say together, in Christ there is no east or west.
To a Native American Indian piece of music, the circle dance community has a choreography called As One. And we are going to stand in sacred silence at the beginning of this piece of music, and then we will be dancing to our right, 2 steps, right, left. And then we will face the center and do what we call a side, close, side, close. Aho.
As one we walk this earth together. As one we sing to her our song. As one we love her.
If the Lord delights us, she will bring us into this land and give it to us, a land that flows with milk and honey. Go forth and make this new land a place where we can all dwell in full peace of inner spirit and complete consciousness of how our daily actions create our world. Go now and spread the word.